what you had today.
Yes,
like
I
it's
know.
an emergency,
I
state
know.
of emergency.
Of
what
course.
do we do? Shut your doors.
Yes, I know. Everyone's been asking me this question, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but I left doctoring to go tell jokes.
You're a comedian
I'm not
now.
the guy. I'm not the guy.
No, you definitely are the guy.
But today
we
I
like
am the guy.
made educational light to note, and that's why you're here.
Yes,
Doctor.
of course. It's over the counter time.
It's over the counter time. So third case of coronavirus has been confirmed.
Yes. No, I did hear about that this morning.
Yeah. How freaked out should we be, Doctor?
Well, look, I mean, South Africans can expect it to look, it's either gonna spread or it's gonna stay. I don't have the full answer, but what I can say is I think people are freaking out way too much. You know what I mean? Like, I think the problem is with the amount of information we have out there. It can either be beneficial or non-beneficial.
Okay.
So I think, look, you obviously have to take the right precautions, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And you gotta be vigilant, but don't be like completely paranoid. Like, stay at home and lock yourself in a bubble. Don't do that stuff. Go out, still have fun, live your life. Just be a bit more precautious now.
So you think because we've survived listeriosis, we can definitely survive?
Yes.
the Rona?
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, I've seen plenty of people, and the stats are showing that.
Yeah.
With corona, 98% of the patients are surviving. In China, those are the figures. So, 2% of people have passed away, but those are like vulnerable populations. And by that I mean really old or really young who have weak immune systems. So, yeah, in terms of that, look, it is dangerous, and I'm not going to say that people must not do anything about it, not worry or not be concerned. People must have a decent level of concern for the spread of the virus. Yeah.
Okay. So I always say that like nothing ever happens in the West Rand because I'm from the West Rand. And then there was a thing on Twitter where somebody went and said there is literally no hand sanitizer anywhere. So I was like, there's no way there's no hand sanitizer at Checkers in Victoria.
Really?
Doctor, I went.
You went to the Checkers?
And there was no hand sanitizer. Nothing anywhere.
Yes.
Should we be that paranoid to a point where we're using hand sanitizers?
Well, I mean, look, that is how it spread. I don't know how many people would spread it that way, but that is how it spread. So you should be a little bit more concerned when it comes to hand hygiene. And by that I mean, and I'm sure you guys have heard, you got to wash your hands for approximately 20 seconds thoroughly, and ensure that you're getting rid of whatever's on your hand. But at the same time, like I feel like people are being a bit way too suspicious. Like this guy was like, because about the thing with don't greet, don't shake hands with people.
Yeah.
Which I get. The guy, so I tried to greet a guy, and I stuck my hand out, and he was like, "No, I'm not greeting because of the corona."
Yeah.
But at the same time, this guy was eating a bologna quarter, and I'm like, you need to get your priorities straight, bro. Diabetes will kill you first. Or listeriosis. Who knows?
Listeriosis.
Who knows?
Do you have hand sanitizer though, Doc?
Look, I don't have hand sanitizer, but obviously in my medical training, I know how to wash my hands adequately. And actually, as I said to you before, I worked on Friday.
Yeah.
So sometimes I do go in and work, like I fill in for people.
Okay.
So on Friday, I happened to work at this GP practice. And I think about 10 people came in saying, "No, we got the coronas." Everyone was like, "No, we got it." It was in Bosmont, so understandable. And then everyone was just like, okay, I asked, okay, what symptoms are you guys suffering from? Okay, they might have one of the symptoms, like I'm sneezing or I'm coughing or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, but have you traveled anywhere though? Because the main thing is the travel risk.
Yeah.
You know that. It's, have you traveled or been in contact with somebody who's from outside of the country? That would stratify your risk, right? You're high risk if you if you work at an airport or you work with the company that imports parts from China, things like that, where you might have come into contact. So I asked this lady, okay, so you're coughing, right? But have you traveled anywhere?
Yeah.
She was like, well, I went to Randburg last week, but other than that, nothing. I'm like, you're not gonna get it in Randburg. Another person came in. I was like, have you traveled? No, just Brakpan. I was like, well, you can catch a lot of other things there, but not corona. Yeah.
Okay, doctor, we hear you. So doctor says you definitely need to be concerned, but we shouldn't panic, right? Doctor,
Yeah,
that's what
don't go into complete panic mode.
Yeah.
Be vigilant.
Yeah.
Be safe. But
Alright.
don't go into don't strap yourself in a bubble. That's all I'm saying.
So we're going to take a music global love experience. I'm still hanging out with my favorite doctor on the planet. Okay, Dr. Essa. And we're discussing the Rona.
The Ronas.
The Ronas.
I hear that's what they call it on the streets.
That's what they call it on the streets.
Yeah.
Coronavirus. But I'm just glad you said, you know what? Definitely
What up with
concerned.
that Ronas, fam?
But let's not panic, is what
Yeah.
you're saying. All right.
Yeah.
But doctor, why is it taking it so long to reach SA? I mean, it's been around for quite some time.
You know,
it started starting in Asia, and now it's here. Why now?
You know, this is going to be controversial, but I think the reason why it's taken so long for it to get to South Africa is because Corona was scared of all the diseases we have here. We have dangerous diseases here. I think Corona peeped over the border and said,
I keep cool.
I don't think that I'm going to. I think I'm going back. See you guys next week.
But it's here. It's
Yeah,
next
it's
week.
here. It's here. It's next week now. And it's arrived. Look, it was scared, but now it's here.
All right. So we heard the whole thing of, you know, China building a hospital very, very quickly, and now it's here.
Yeah, it's here now.
Does our government have the resources or the capacity?
So I think that the government is doing a pretty good job of it currently. Both the cases that I read about, those two, before the third confirmed one today, they had been quarantined. They kept them in isolation as soon as they discovered that they have the coronavirus. But the one thing I will say is that these two patients, they came through private hospitals. Yeah, I can't wait for Corona to make it to our government hospitals, because we will make Corona queue. Corona will be waiting in the queue
Yeah. Baby.
whilst TB is coughing on Corona. Just, hey, I'm a show. Yes. Fala. Woo! Corona will get up and leave. I can't take this anymore. I'm going back. Go back to China. Sorry, guys. You haven't seen Baragwana. It's too much. It's too much.
Hectic. Have you even worked at Paragon?
I have working. I've worked at Paragon.
Yeah.
And look, I think that, you know, these government hospitals, they're fairly well equipped, and they do have quarantine facilities and those types of things. So I think, like, all jokes aside, we'll have it under control. We'll have it under wraps as long as it's picked up and we don't let Corona wait in the queue. That's the most important thing. So I want TB and Corona mixing together, and that's devastating. Yeah, that would be really,
But now they said they couldn't detect it. It wasn't detectable when the people landed here.
Yeah. So look, it is very tough because it presents like a normal flu. You just get like you might just present with a cough, fever, which is things that you'd get in a normal flu. But then once you start experiencing like shortness of breath, those types of symptoms, that's when you need to get really concerned. But I mean, it is still very difficult to pick up because most people think they just got a common cold, flu. You know, they don't think that they've got anything significantly wrong with them. And a virus, I'm not sure if you know this, but a virus, there's no real cure for a lot of viruses.
Sure.
Like, there's no cure for the flu. You guys know that there's no cure for the flu?
So why do we take medication?
So it's just to support your body through the whole process of your body fighting through it. So that's why they encourage having lots of vitamin C, drink med lemon, those types of things, because it boosts your immune system to fight the virus. But there's no actual medication for a lot of viruses. I'm not saying there's no cure for any viruses, but a lot of viruses have no cure. You take antibiotics for bacterial infections, but for a virus, there's no real cure. It's just supportive management, you know?
But now will the corona then act like a flu?
Like so it basically presents. It's like flu is like Corona's cousin that grew up in the suburbs. You know what I mean? And Corona was in the deep south. You know what I mean? Just lifting weights and eating bricks for fun. You know, that's how I can give it to you in the most simple explanation. Because Corona is a much more harsher form of the flu, but it starts the same way. So that's why it's pretty tricky to initially diagnose. And that's why it spread so quickly in the East, in China and through Asia and all the other countries around there, because, you know, a lot of people were like, no, I'm feeling fine. It's just the flu, it'll go away. And then, you know, they discovered that they have Corona. So
So on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your confidence in the government of this country dealing with the Corona?
Well, I've worked for the government at a government hospital. So, you know, I would say 50-50.
Okay.
There's times where I've seen the government and government hospitals react very quickly and solve problems extremely fast.
Yeah.
But then also there have been times where I've seen them really mess up and mismanage resources and not, come to grips with diseases. So, look, but in South Africa, our chronic diseases like diabetes, gout, hypertension is actually the biggest killer in South Africa. Far more than HIV, far more than Corona currently.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we really,
We should be focusing on.
And yes, this is an epidemic. Like, it's just sprouted up and it's a new disease and we don't have a cure yet, and we should be vigilant. But also, don't forget that the government still needs to be concerned about all the others. So I wouldn't recommend that the government now builds hospitals just for Corona and keep people under quarantine, or like go into that panic state, where we're just in this constant state of emergency now. We've got to be worried about. We need to still push funds into. So I think that the public also needs to realize the more pressure they put on the government to do something, in inverted commas, about Corona, the more the government might have to respond and do something drastic, which may not be necessary.
Yeah.
Because you'll die from the poloni quota before me shaking your hand. You get what I mean?
I get what you mean, doctor.
Yeah.
All right. So all of those that are having a fun time, if you're having a fun time, the doctor says it's fine. Take your whistles, blow them, and just chill.
Yeah.
The radio awards are back and
Still hanging out with Dr. Essa, and we're discussing the coronavirus.
The Ronas.
The Ronas on the streets. All right, doctor.
Yes.
So Naomi Campbell was recorded on a video getting into a plane, and she was wearing gloves. She was wiping everything with wipes there where she was sitting. Is all of that necessary? Should we be wearing masks? Should we be wearing gloves?
First let's debunk the myths, right?
Yes.
So with regards to the masks, they have very little efficacy in the average population, meaning if you're not trained to wear them properly, firstly, it's not really effective.
What do you mean wear them properly?
So there's a specific method and a specific type of mask. It's called the N95 respirator. We use it in government hospitals, any hospital actually.
Okay.
We use it when we're dealing with TB patients. So if I know that somebody has TB or a suspected case of TB, I will put that mask on, and there's a specific manner in which you put it on, and there's a specific manner in which you take it off, because you have to seal like if you go on Google and you Google it now, you look like a duck when you wear this mask, right? It's like a cone that sits over your face.
All right.
Because those flat surgical masks, they don't offer full protection from air droplets. And that's where the virus exists, in air droplets. So those surgical masks that people are frantically running around and getting actually are detrimental to our healthcare system, because now you're pulling them away from healthcare providers who actually do need them to do surgeries, to deal with certain sick patients, those types of things. The only place where a mask will be really helpful is if you know there is a patient, or you are highly suspective of a case, then you put the mask on that patient, so when they cough, it's preventing their droplets from spraying everywhere and onto you. But with regards to the N95, it's very tricky to learn. Firstly, there's a proper method in which you wear the mask, which most people will not know. Also, even when you remove the mask, if you're touching the front of the mask when you remove it, those droplets are now on your hands, and now you're going to touch your face, and then you're going to get corona. So in essence, if you don't know how to wear the mask properly, it's actually more beneficial for you to just practice good hand hygiene methods. Instead of going for the handshake, fist bump. If somebody, there was a
But what's the difference there, doctor?
So on national TV, they asked this expert in infectious diseases, South African doctor, Dr. Pillay or something, and he was like, he said it in a really weird way. He was like, don't greet with the hands, don't handshake, just greet them with the knuckles. And I was like, that's the weirdest way anyone's described a fist bump ever.
With the knuckles.
So because you don't use the back of your hand to do anything. You're not going to try and pick up a pencil with the back of your hand, but you're picking things up with the front, and now you're touching somebody else's hand. So the back of your hand is generally much safer if you want to greet. And that contact for like a split second is not gonna. When you fist bump, you're not like locking and intertwining fists for about 5 seconds, looking into each other's eyes romantically. As opposed to a handshake where, you get some like really complex handshakes where it's like you shaking the guy's hand for like 20 seconds. There's pumping. There's
a method to it.
Yeah. Maybe that's also why in South Africa, Corona took so long to spread. Our handshakes are just too complicated. Corona was just like, I don't know whose hand am I on now?
But that is a bit tricky trying to fist bump Cyril Ramaphosa. I mean.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen what like. Has Cyril did say something, right? He came out, he said, guys, don't panic too much.
Yeah.
He did the right things.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
But
Did
fist
you?
bump him. Are you going to fist bump Cyril?
Would I fist bump Cyril?
Instead of shaking his hand.
If I had to, I'll be like, hey, bro, you need to sort out the Ronas before I can shake your hand. I'm sorry. Respect me and my germs.
Very hectic. Okay, so hand sanitizers are finished now.
So hand sanitizers are probably going to get finished very rapidly because of the high demand now. Everyone wants to use hand sanitizer, whatever. Look, they're quite effective. I would say maybe 80 to 90%. Yeah. But a good 20-second hand wash where you're in between your fingers and you're washing the sides of your hand, in between the nails, putting some soap on your on the palm and twisting with your other hand on top with the nails facing down on your palm, because it cleans underneath the nails as well. So good hand washing and, not coming into close contact in personal spaces, those types of measures, very, very important, I would say. But in terms of the masks, waste of time, honestly, for the average person in the population, not worth investing in buying 100 masks. Now you've got to pay like 1,000 rand for these 100 masks or whatever it is. Yeah. And now you're going to use one every day, probably not even the right manner.
The right way, yeah.
Yeah, just
a waste of money.
Yeah, just be vigilant in public spaces. Wash your hands thoroughly and there's so many YouTube videos on how to just wash your hands. And even when you're coughing, or if you see somebody else coughing, tell them, hey, listen, man, don't cough into your fist either. Cough into your elbow. Yeah, raise your elbow in front of your mouth when you're coughing, because you're not touching anyone with your elbow or anything. So it's just those simple things that actually help prevent the spread of disease.
Doctor, does the type of soap matter? I don't know if that's a silly question.
So the type of soap, not really.
So we can go green bound.
Yeah, with the, remember all these the soaps that kill 99% of germs. Those ones are antibacterial. Remember what we said earlier? This is a virus.
Okay.
It's not doing anything. Water will get rid of it. It's the droplets on your hands. So literally water flowing onto your hands, into the sink, that is enough to get rid of whatever's on your hands. And it's just good, generally you should wash your hands. Not like as vigilant as you are now.
You should be washing your hands.
You should be just washing your hands.
Yeah.
It's a good practice, Regularly you should be washing your hands. We don't realize how many, when I was in medical school, they did a study where they just took average people's hands. Just on a normal day, they went to the mall, they went shopping, they went to this, that, maybe went out somewhere to a restaurant. And then at the end of that, they took their hands and they put it in a Petri dish. A Petri dish is where you grow bacteria.
Okay. So
they put their hands in the Petri dish, remove their hands, and then it's in a little bowl, which is called an agar plate, and the bacteria, then you see how much bacteria grows. And the average person, the stuff that they had on their hands, it was ridiculous, man. Some of the bacteria that these people had in their hands were resistant to antibiotics and stuff. And this is just an average day in the life of a normal person walking through town, maybe putting their hand on an escalator. That stuff is dangerous.
Yeah.
People need to worry about that. You're putting your hand on an escalator where hundreds and hundreds of people are holding. They've rubbed their nose, their face, their child.
But money's also dirty. The doors are dirty, doctor. So what must happen?
So look, just generally, wash your hands, man. It's just a good rule for
How many
life.
times? Regularly?
I would say, look, if you're in a public space, you're going to a mall, and you're not fully aware of, okay, I'm on an escalator, shit. Oh, sorry. I'm on an escalator and I'm touching the thing. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Don't do those types of things anyway, and just be vigilant when you're in public spaces and wash your hands. If you're in a public space and you are able to get to a place where you can wash your hands. Otherwise, keep hand sanitizer. I'm not saying that it doesn't work or it's not effective, but actually water and washing your hands well is actually proven to be more effective than just the average hand sanitizer.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Dr. Essa. Your social
Thank
media
you.
handles.
Of course. Suhayl Essa, SUHAYLESSA on all platforms. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find me there. If you want some special advice, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, he's a great doctor, but he's also very, very funny. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thank
for
you so
joining
much,
us.
Noni.
We'll check you out again next week. We'll see what we're going to be talking about.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for just relieving us with stress, Sakarone.
Thank you.
Because wow,
Oh, it's a
it was
pleasure.
almost messy. Check you next time, doctor.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Peace.